Welcome back, my friends. You're watching Jeremy Kyle Investigates. Now, desperate, powerless and flawed. That's the feelings by many leaseholders who, despite technically owning their own property, are having to pay mounting additional costs on that property. These extra charges might include ground rent, legal costs, and some are even paying over £300 for a doormat. It's unbelievable, this. The government had originally laid out plans to abolish the leasehold system, but again, in a U-turn by the Housing Secretary, the scrapping of the system will not happen this year. Instead, Michael Gove, yes him, has set out proposed law changes that will give further protection to leasehold tenants. However, these changes have not been widely received, with some campaigners slamming the new laws, saying it is simply more sticking plaster reform. So my question tonight is, what is wrong with our leasehold system? Earlier, I spoke to Harry and Anna Scoffin, who've been stung, and I mean stung, by extortionate fees. Here they are explaining their difficult situation.
It's a flat. It's a no-frills block. It's a 3-bedroom flat in a fabulous position. I'm in a lovely spot in London. But I'm actually in quite a scary position, to be honest. One that keeps me awake at night sometimes. I pay £33,000 in service charges. And when you add, Jeremy, £900 of ground rent and utilities...
Is that monthly?
I think that would be for the year, the ground rent. I think it's about £40,000 a year. And there is no swimming pool, there is no garden, there is no gym, no cinema room, no conference room, no
I'm really confused. So you bought this house...
Flat.
Leasehold?
Yeah. Thinking it was going to be amazing.
But what did they tell you legally? I mean, your son Harry, you said to me when we were off air, you know, I'm campaigning for this.
There's basically 5 million leasehold homes in England and Wales. 20% of the housing stock is leasehold, and it's basically a feudal system that goes back to 1066, William the Conqueror nicking all the land. And what we're saying, we set up this campaign, Commonhold now, April early this year, is that when someone buys a flat, they should be, or a home, they should be able to own it outright and not have these freeholders that are basically freeloaders.
Did you have a solicitor when you bought this flat?
I think we probably did. Yeah, of course we did. We went
But in
through
the
normal
conveyancing process of being with your solicitor, are you telling me that you're... For people tuning in, they'll be expecting me to ask... Are you telling me that nobody explained to you what a leasehold was?
Absolutely not. And I truly believe...
Well, I'd sue your goddamn solicitor right now, and I'm being deadly serious.
I didn't know that the building would be so run down.
Yeah.
We'd have something like 12 floods in 2 to 3 years, and we'd have the carpets infested with moths and beetles because they've never been cleaned, Jeremy.
So you buy your flat in a block.
And you think you own it. Sorry to interrupt.
No, brilliant. And you think you own it, but actually suddenly you're hit with this bill.
Yes.
And part of it, and I read it here, run down. The communal area is appalling. I mean, what are you getting for 40 grand a year? Nothing.
I'm absolutely getting nothing. I'm getting ripped off. And I have a message. Can I give a message? I have a message, first of all, to all the young people, to all the people who have a dream. They have a dream of owning their own home. I'm going to say to them, if they can't afford a freehold property, or perhaps they're living in a town or somewhere where there are no freehold properties, please, please, please don't buy a leasehold property, because it could quite likely ruin your life, ruin your mental state and ruin your finances.
I think the point that I was trying to make, Harry, before was when I said about your solicitor. I mean, I think that message is really important. You would understand, would you not, the people watching this would go, I mean, fundamentally, you've been failed by a solicitor who should have done due diligence and found that this building, because that ignorance, not on your behalf, but on other people's behalf, can put them in the position you find yourself in, right?
But it's a systems failure, because every country in the world, when you buy a flat, it's yours, even with a mortgage, you control those...
Oh, it shouldn't be allowed, but what I'm saying is surely, Harry, you would agree that your solicitor should have pointed that out to your mother.
Well, they pointed out that the service charges are high, but no one's got a crystal ball to go in and say your service charges are going to go up £10,000 in 5 years.
Dave said it to me earlier. It's like the landlord's getting 2 bites at the cherry. They're selling you the property and pocketing that money, and they're also charging you increasingly exorbitant, service charges. Presumably they can make their own figures up. And as you described it, it's incredibly run down where I live, and that isn't great for you moving forward. And you talk about what it's done to you. This has really knocked you, right?
Well, it has. I mean, I'm basically terrified on the one hand. and I'm extremely angry on the other. And if I decided to stop paying, then they could take my flat away.
Are you keen to sell up and move on because of what's happened?
But why should I?
Yeah,
I can't anyway, unless I give it away. But why should I? Why should I have to sell my property because I'm being screwed, basically?
There's a lot...
Sorry for that.
No, May, you can say screwed. There's a lot of conversations around this housing crisis. We can talk about that. There aren't enough houses being built and the fact that, we've got an immigration issue in this country. But landlords, certainly renters, are struggling big time. And landlords, in my mind, and this is another example, probably need far more control and regulation because, Harry, as your mum says, they can seemingly charge whatever the hell they want.
Yeah, and the thing is that there is a distinction between leasehold and renting. In a well-functioning rental market, if you're getting screwed over by a bad landlord or you're in a bad property, poorly maintained, you can leave that landlord behind. The problem with leasehold is you sink your life savings into a property, you don't own the bricks, you don't own a single brick, you don't own bricks and mortar, and the reality is you've got a landlord who's got a financial interest in seeing your building as an income stream, your home. And the key issue here that we want all the viewers to listen to is that you have no control over that landlord and they can completely trash your capital value. And it will be the biggest mistake. And this is a joke of it. Scotland. Emigrate to Scotland, emigrate to any other country in the world where they have Commonhold systems, condo, they call it strata title in Australia and Asia. People democratically own their buildings. And don't get me wrong, residents may fall out with each other, but that's democracy. That's an argument against democracy. Let the people that are paying these bills control them and be a little bit like, maybe I'm not allowed to say this, Lord Sugar, and say you're fired and get rid of a managing agent that's ripping you off.
Couldn't agree more.
We can't buy the freehold. We can't even get this thing called right to manage where we could appoint our own managing agent because you've got a hotel underneath. It's an absolute nightmare. And, we don't want to name names here, but this system is making people rich beyond their wildest dreams. And there's nothing wrong with capitalism doing well, but you've got to provide a service. This is highway robbery.